All right, welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to talk a bit about the business side of my business, which includes shooting a lot of sports. Over time, I branched out from games and events into media days and sports portraits. Now, if you're like me and you've taken the plunge into shooting media days, or maybe even just studio portrait photography in general, you know that like most photography avenues, the gear needed to pull off a professional media day can get expensive, quick. You get into that mindset of needing multiple strobes, light stands, backdrops, haze, even having to secure locations, all of which can cost a lot of money. So my goal with this shoot was to see what I could achieve in terms of dramatic sports portraits using one continuous light source, the Nanlite FC500B, for about 95% of this shoot. When I did add in other lights as accents, edge lights, and kickers, I used two Nanlite 4-foot pavo tubes. So no strobes, no off-camera flash, just a single continuous light source for a majority of the day, and a couple of the accents when needed. To be clear, I own strobes and use them on all of my media days, but again, for this shoot, the goal was to take the simplest, most stripped-down approach and see what I could get. As an aside, if you're shooting and into the media day and sports portrait realm, chances are you've heard of some of the heavy hitters of that world, James Quantz, Jason Sterling, Brad Deal, and while I certainly looked to them for inspiration when I originally embarked on the sports media day portrait path, I think shoots like this are a good reminder to strip down my approach and focus on the actual portrait aspect of it. The lighting, the eyes, the frame, get rid of the props and the lasers and all the same poses everyone does, the bells and the whistles, and just shoot a portrait. So with that in mind, let's jump into the shoot. The first concern in a super dark studio setting when you're using continuous lighting, as opposed to strobes, is power and wattage. Do we have enough of it to keep our ISO low enough and ensure we're getting a clean image? The short answer is yes, we do, for two reasons. First off, the reality is the technology in these cameras today, and I don't care if you're shooting Sony, Canon, Nikon, whatever, is so good that you don't have to be afraid of your ISO hitting 1,000 or more. And second, what's great is, with a 500 watt light like the FC500B, that was never an issue. My ISO on pretty much all of these shots was typically at 320 to 400, and that's pretty incredible to be honest, especially in an otherwise pitch black room. So that wattage, which in turn gave me that 320 to 400 ISO, gave me a perfectly clean subject while ensuring that the background and anything else that crept into frame was pure black, which is what I wanted. Another quick note on lighting the subject, attached to the FC500B was a 35-inch Rapid 90 parabolic softbox with an egg crate so I could mitigate the spill. The temperature of the light was daylight balanced around 5600 Kelvin, so my white balance in camera was set to 5600 Kelvin as well. As far as lighting direction, I've really been loving the top-down lighting for wrestling specifically. It honestly makes muscles look bigger and more defined, and the athletes love it. And the whole just look up pose with hands on hips or arms folded has also been my go-to recently. This goes back to my entire approach for this shoot: simple lighting setup, simple poses, but dramatic and powerful shots that the athletes love. If you add in the pavo tubes for edge lights, being careful that they are set back enough and don't hit the tip of the nose, then you can introduce some haze as well. The other lighting configuration I've been liking recently is split lighting. Leaning into the black background, I really love obscuring half the face in darkness. What's nice with this is, again, you can add an edge light into the opposite side for some interest, and again, introduce haze if preferred. And white haze against a black background pulls out the outline of the athlete nicely. As a disclaimer, if I knew I would be using these photos for posters or banners, something I've done before, so masking the athletes and pulling them into Photoshop and adding graphics, I would absolutely go for a more traditional lighting setup. Edge lights and hair lights. The key might be more of a traditional front lit or diagonally lit Rembrandt style lighting configuration. In other words, I would have gotten everything more evenly lit overall. But since these weren't for banners or posters, I could play around with the more dramatic top-down setup, split lighting, etc. and so on. So the last setup I did, again, leaning into the power of the FC500B and dramatic look I was going for, was the foggy silhouette. This one was super easy, where I had the athlete stand about 10 feet in front of the key light and had my assistant hit the fog machine. It was a straight line. Fog machine, key light right on top of each other, athlete 10 feet in front of that, and me another 10 feet in front of the athlete. For this shot, I wanted to make the lighting super dramatic and harsh, so I removed the softbox and just used the standard reflector. Like any shots adding fog, the goal was to snap a bunch of photos before the fog got in front of the athlete and wash them out. So while this shot isn't anything super technical, it's one where the silhouette worked nicely, the athlete loved it, and 500 watts of continuous light was more than enough power to get exactly what we were going for. The last thing I wanted to touch on for this shoot was video. From my experience, most media day packages are strictly photos, but I'll often shoot my media days with two stations. One station with continuous lights, and another separate station with strobes. The beauty of this is that now I can offer these teams media day videos in addition to photos. And the first thing I noticed while shooting video on this one was, wow, 500 watts is powerful. With the Sony cameras we're using, we have dual native ISOs for shooting video at 800 and 2500 for the A7R5 and 640 and 12800 for the FX3, which was our BTS camera. So for my A7R5, which was the camera I shot all the photos with, when I just switched to video, again, the native ISO for video, the base ISO for video is 800. I had to dip that down, which I've never noticed a difference going below the native ISO, or I would have had to ND just to keep the subject, correctly exposed. Actually, I couldn't even have the light at 100% for the video shots. I usually had it anywhere from 35 to 50%. So again, super powerful. All in all, I'm super happy with how this shoot went, the final photos we captured, and most importantly, how simple it was with the gear we had. I think having powerful continuous lights like this is great because in some ways it lowers the barrier to entry for photographers, and especially videographers, looking to get into media days and studio portraiture, but not wanting to break the bank by purchasing multiple strobes and spending thousands of dollars on equipment. So that's it. Leave a comment or critique below. If you're feeling generous, subscribe and interact in any way if you'd be so kind. Cheers.